So I have a new mystery for us to solve. It's a condition mystery box, but these books aren't near mint. Why did I do this? All right, so if you are a regular watcher of my videos, first of all, I appreciate it. But second of all, you know that I'm buying a lot of books from Mile High Comics listed as near mint. And then we go through those books and look at whether or not they truly come out as near mint. What are the chances of those being above near mint, below, and so forth. And all of this time, I was wondering, well, what about the other books they have listed in a lesser condition quality below near mint? Are those two accurate? And again, Mile High has their own grading standards, but what I wanted to find out was, what do books in fine or very fine condition, what are those real conditions? Like if you're really grading, and this is going to be tough because we're going to unbox an order that I placed from Mile High Comics, and the majority of these books were either fine or very fine. And a couple of the books I ordered in both conditions because I wanted to compare and see, are they close? Are we talking about like 6.5, 7.5, or is it more like a 5.5 and an 8.5? And I wanted to go through and really finally, once and for all, look and understand, because there are bargains to be had when you go back to the Silver and Bronze Age, specifically, where there are prices of books that are listed in fine or very fine condition, and those are still to be great quality, high value books. So let me unbox this and I'll show you what's inside, and we'll take some of these books out and grade them and see if I got lucky with some of the conditions, or if they're truly graded accurately on Mile High, and then we know for next time. And let's take a look and get these books out of the envelope and start grading them. All right, so here's the shipment from Mile High, and let's get this open. I always choose the FedEx option, never the USPS with them, and it comes packed in this FedEx envelope. It's a padded envelope. Save that nice bubble wrap for any books I need to ship out. And we'll get this out of the plastic bag. And as I said earlier, most of these books are in the fine or very fine category on their website. And what we're going to find out is, are these books truly that condition? Now, there are few that are near mint, and I went ahead and grabbed them. And so those won't be much of an experiment. But anyway, let's go through the books that I bought. This is X-Men 161. And this is a book that is listed in fine condition. Captain America 310, again listed in fine condition. Here is a really nice Fantastic Four 129 in fine condition. X-Men 155 direct. This is in very fine, no bag and board. And that'll happen from time to time. They'll slip that in there. Now this was one of the interesting ones, I thought, anyway. So this Amazing Spider-Man 374, really great early Mark Bagley Venom. And I bought one in a very fine and one in near mint. Now, randomly enough, the near mint copy came without a backing board, and the very fine one came with the board. So this will be interesting to kind of compare the condition on these two. Same goes for X-Men 161 here, I got a fine copy that I just showed you, and this is a very fine. So I've got a couple here where I can compare and see the difference. Here's Tales of the Jedi. This one I ordered near mint, so probably won't be going through that one. Hopefully that's just art and not ink stains on there. Shadows of the Empire #1. Mile High, for some reason, still has Shadows #1 and Tales of the Jedi #1 listed at a very reasonable price, and I just kind of grab one of these with every order until they are going to run out. But I feel like maybe they have a whole long box of #1s of these, and I'll just keep grabbing them. Star Wars 71, no backing board. This is in very fine. So we'll take a look at this and see how that turns out. First appearance of Bosk in the story. He has a couple cameos, but this is his first full appearance. And if you're enjoying the book of Boba Fett like I am, it's looking like Bosk could show up as Boba puts his crew together. We'll see. This is another one where if you don't have somebody's first appearance or the key, start kind of surrounding it. This is Marvel Presents Bloodstone #1. And the whole Bloodstone family is now a thing. You know, with Elsa Bloodstone being all the rage, with Death of Doctor Strange, Bloodstone #1. She's highly speculated on as a character that's coming to the MCU sooner than later. And her father, I believe, Ulysses Bloodstone, this is his first appearance. And so you just kind of grab the keys around the keys, so to speak. And this is Marvel Presents #1. This is fine, listed in fine condition. Another Tales of the Jedi, #1. I believe this too was listed in near mint, and I got 2 copies. X-Men 184. This one I believe was also very fine. Yeah, very fine. It's not listed here. So that'll be interesting. I have ordered this book before from Mile High in near mint. And they've been, high grade, 9 and above. And I wanted to see what a very fine copy looks like. And then lastly, Thor 339. I love the Simonson Thor run. Beta Ray Bill right around here. So this is obviously doing the math a couple issues after 337. And this was just another kind of experimental copy. This was also very fine and a super affordable one. And I wanted to grab a book that maybe I could press out or improve in getting it in very fine. So here's part of the experiment, or these are the things that I want to figure out with this order. I mean, first of all, I want to understand, what is the range of actual grades that I would assign to books that I purchase as very fine. And then I want to see if these are marked down in condition because they can be pressed, or do they have defects that can't be improved with. As I understand their process at Mile High, Chuck will purchase a collection, and then he kind of probably sifts through them and identifies the key books or books that he wants to sell, and then he hands them over to at least one grader. Maybe he's Chuck's only grader, I don't know, and goes through and assigns grades, and probably does a lot what I do here, which is just day in, day out, going through books, grading, learning how to grade, learning how to clean, and cataloging and sorting. And I've heard Chuck say he's not a comic book collector, he's a comic book what did he say? I think a comic book sorter is what he said. And I kind of feel like we're very similar in that regard. So again, I feel like there's the potential to find fine and very fine comics at Mile High that are under fair market value, that either could be pressed and improved on, or they are undergrading the books. That is my hypothesis, I guess. And that's what we're going to find out. And I wanted to get a mix of semi-expensive books, cheap books, and then the same books so we can compare the grades together. So let's find some examples here and start to go through them. So let's take a look at Thor 339. This was the cheapest one that I got, and you'll see the breakdown of the order here later on. But this book was listed as very fine, and yeah, at first glance, I really don't see anything wrong with the book except that it's dirty. So this will be one of the things that we want to prove out is, although no book condition sort of defines very fine, like just because this is what I would consider to be like a high grade copy or near mint copy, but it's dirty and needs to be cleaned, does that mean all the books that come from Mile High as very fine are dirty that could be cleaned? Obviously not. But look at the spine on this. I mean, it's slightly miswrapped by 1/8 of an inch up to maybe 1/4 of an inch. So not a fan, but I really don't see any problems there. Trying to shift it back and forth in the light to see it catches those. I mean, that's a perfect spine. Right at the top here is as soon as I say it's perfect, again, there's some subtle ticks right in there by the character box. Great Beta Ray Bill character box too. And anyway, it's catching a couple. There we go, right there, right by my finger. There's one. So it is a press candidate. But the big thing for me, there's a little bit of a paper bunching right in there above Popeye's head. But there's no tears. There aren't any tears I can see. Everything is real crispy. So I'd probably give this one maybe a 9 or a 9.2. The big thing is the dirt along the spine. Here, I'll turn it around. So there's lots and lots of dirt. So what I may end up doing, and I've been wanting to do this for a little while, is put a cleaning video together. And I have some new materials to help me. But the spine is very dirty. It's not stained, that's just dirt. So this is what I would catalog as, something that needs to be, zoom in a little bit there, something that needs to be cleaned and pressed. I think it needs to be pressed. You can even see that in the light. Right down here, there's an overlap that probably needs to be kind of flattened out. A couple of minor spine ticks here in the corner box, and then it just needs to be cleaned up. So if it just basically got a nice quick press and I was able to clean up all of this, unless I'm going to get, punished right there for that little bit of a bunching thing, I think that this has the potential to be a worst case as a 9.6. So this was one of those where I wanted to get kind of an affordable book to work with and, mess around with it. Try and clean it, press it, and so forth. And if you end up damaging it, it's kind of worth your time, almost like taking a class. So what I do now is I'll put this in the bag and board. And what I do is I try and assign a grade to it as is. So with that dirt and a couple of the other spine ticks, I'm leaning towards giving this one an 8.5, but I feel like I'm being influenced by the fact that it's very fine. And do I really want to give it an 8? I feel like it's in great shape. I mean, honestly, all around the book, there are no defects, there are no creases other than the dirt. And again, so if there's one right in here, a couple of, hairline, non-color breaking spine ticks up in here. If the book was super clean and I wanted to be super conservative, I would say 9.6. And then you're just kind of working your way back from the dirt. And we know that color rub will hurt the condition of the book. So I'm fine with giving it an 8.5, but honestly, I really feel like it's more like a 9. But it's possible that the dirt is just too dirty. But I'm going to go with a 9. And so what I'll do is right in here, I will write 9.0. And then I will mark it C for clean, P for press. And then I'll file it away. And then in my spreadsheet, when I'm cataloging all of these, that's helpful because number one, I can differentiate between books that I can just throw in the press and let it just kind of sit there and passively increase in quality and condition, or if I have to add humidity or sit down with it and clean it. And so if there's a book that's got a chance of really improving, then I will spend the time and the effort to clean it up. So here's one example. This is 339 that I got as a very fine. So even if, again, sending it off to CGC, this probably comes back around an 8.5 or 9. So the very fine designation, I think, it was an undergrade on this one. And again, if I can clean this up and get it into a 9.4, 9.6, then I didn't pay much for it. And then I'm thinking, well, maybe I should take a look more at their fine and very fine copies of comics, because I've been so focused on near mint. So that's the whole concept here. So let me put this one aside. All right, let's find another one here. And I'm not going to do the Star Wars near mints because you've seen those before, and I'm going to trust that they are at least in that 9 or 9.2 range already. And I want to find two books that are similar here. So let's try The Amazing Spider-Man. Okay, so as I said, this is a near mint copy and then a very fine copy. And I did that on purpose, looking to see what I paid. So it was a $4 difference. Again, affordable experiment. So it cost me $4 more to get the near mint copy. So at first glance, it looks really nice, very white, very vibrant. No dirt on the cover that I can see. Maybe just a little bit in here, very, very subtle. I would probably, if I was going to send this for grading, dry clean that a little bit. No folds, no creases, looks great. Down here, it has an impact crunch on the corner. You can see right there. So that's not cool. So when I see that, I start to think 8 to 9.2 on a pristine book that has that impact crunch. And then looking at the back looks good, clean, no dirt. A little bit of something in there in the paper right there. Not sure what that is. Let's open it up and see. Yeah, I don't know, just something needs to be smoothed out, I think. But all in all, pretty strong copy. Again, didn't pay very much for it, so a really nice experimental copy. Now, that I would just blast that with humidity, just blast the whole bottom corner right in here, and then send it through a press. So right here, I'm probably thinking it's a 9.2. You know, is it a 9.4? The spine looks gorgeous, that's for sure. It just looks great. White pages, no doubt, like super white pages. And again, to be fair, 9.4 tops. I just don't like that. It goes from being a spine tick to crunch. So again, I'm more conservative. I'm going to go with a 9.2 on that one. Now let's look at the very fine copy. So very fine, according to industry standards, is an 8. According to Mile High standards, we don't know. So that's what we're trying to find out. So here is the very fine. So the first thing is it does have a little bit of a flap here. And what I always like to do is just see if I can undo it myself with my fingernail, just to kind of get it back where it was before. And that one's being extra stubborn, but I think I got it, more or less. But unfortunately, because it was folded over, it is color breaking there, right in that corner. So this one does not have the crunch, and spine looks good. But here again, it's dirt, it's grime, right in there by the staple. But that could be cleaned up right in here as well in the corner by Spider-Man's leg, right in there. There's some more dirt. So the front this one's definitely dirtier. Right here across Venom's right eye, there's something. And again, when you're comparing the two, you can kind of see the difference here. If you're looking at the dirt by the staple, There he is on his right eye, and the other one doesn't have it, so it's not art. It's actually just stuff, gunk, grime, dirt, whatever. Also up in here, it's dirty. So I feel like that is one thing that they're looking at, is they're looking at if the book is clean, and it has a, I would say, a delicate spine roll here. So this is, I would say, certainly worthy of a very fine designation. It's pretty strong. I mean, if we're gonna hurt the book down here the way we hurt the other one, so we're kind of taking it down to a 9.2 just because of the corner there, and it's not terrible, but it is what it is. The spine curl also justifies it being a 9.2. So kind of go from there, work backwards. That is some obvious dirt. It's just dirty clearly on that white cover. So now we're down to a 9.85. A little bit there, a little bit there. So I would definitely consider this an 8, but I'm leaning towards giving it an 8.5, just because there's nothing wrong with the spine. And I think that that's often overlooked here. The ability to, have a book like this that has a little bit of dirt, but an otherwise pristine spine with no spine ticks whatsoever. I mean, it's just gorgeous. And I feel like as much as you want to find a defect and kind of say, well, that's the most significant defect, and now I have to kind of work with it, you also want to look at what makes the book great. And a book like this that has a perfect spine, I can't give it an 8. I can't give it a 7.5. There's no way. So, again, to be on the conservative side, I'm going to give it an 8.5. So let me quickly get these books bagged and boarded. So the first, the near mint 374, I think I said was going to get a 9.2 with a press. And then the very fine, I was given that one an 8.5 CP for clean and press. And again, what I do when I catalog these books when they're received is I mark them as what type of press they need, so that I can figure out how much time I need to spend with the book and whether or not it's worth my time. All right. So I'm trying to figure out, like, what am I learning so far? And I think the first two examples is Mile High will definitely ding their own books in terms of their condition based on the cleanliness. Like, if there's obvious dirt or staining, they're going to mark it down real quick. And again, what's nice is I'm just learning how to dry clean books. So this is playing right in my wheelhouse, because I'm seeing a book like this going, you know what, I could probably improve this up to a 9.4. Maybe even a 9.6 if we're going to live with that corner the way it is with that color break. I could turn that book into a 9.6. Okay, let's do another one. How about this X-Men here? So this is going to be an example. Let me find the other copy. I think it's on the bottom. Okay, so here we have X-Men 161. And we have a very fine and a fine. Now I'm going to try not to get them mixed up. Let's start with the fine copy. And I love X-Men. I love collecting Uncanny X-Men. And I'm looking at what I paid for these. So this was a $13.75 difference between fine and very fine. So I don't know if they do a percentage thing or if they're looking at the age of the book or what, but so this is probably more typical of a book that I would see where it's like, yes, it would benefit from a press, but let's look at the spine here. And you can see, okay, this is more typical of a book that's like a 6.0. So you don't have deep color breaks. They're very, very slight. And a press would actually help and make those look, I would say, better, but you start to get the color break right against the spine there, and then it just sort of goes into a non-color breaking. And right there, just a like eighth of an inch spine ticks right in there, and there's several. Corners aren't too bad. They're definitely soft right there. That one's not terrible. Let's turn it over. And I would say this is typical. Now, the big thing for me, we've got some dirt, but I'm kind of skipping over it because I just saw this. So, stained. Huge liquid stain at the bottom. I typically, anytime books are listed on Heritage where there's like, this is a very fine copy, but there's water stains on the back, I skip it. I don't even mess with stains. I don't like it. It looks like somebody dipped it in chocolate milk, and I don't know what to make of it. I don't think it can be clean. It's possible. It's certainly possible, but you see it goes through on the inside, and then you got to deal with the inside cover. The nice thing is that stain didn't, it bled into the paper a little bit, but you'd have to know that it was there to really kind of see. It's unfortunate. So this is where I'm like, okay, fine. It is a fine. It is a 6. I'm fine with that, with the stain. I don't even think it's worth nitpicking 5.5, 6.5, that kind of thing. For me, once you start getting into the 5 and like the very fine minus, I start to see the unraveling of the top edge of the comic, and that looks okay. It looks pretty strong and held together well. So I would still say it's a 6. Before the stain, though, I was going to say that it has some creases there that need to be pressed out. It does need to be cleaned. So again, this is a CP candidate. However, what I'm doing now is I'm not marking those books as a press and clean if either I don't want to, or I feel like, you know what, that stain is just always going to haunt the book no matter what I do. So I'm just going to give it the 6.0 and leave it there. I'm not even going to indicate that it could be pressed. Even though I know it could, with the stain, what am I going to get it up to that's worth my time? A 7. And this book you can find all day long. So it's not a super rare, high-end key. I want to say it's the Origin of Magneto. But anyway, so that book, I think, was, listed appropriately. I'm really bummed about the stain because I feel like I could have done something with this book. So let's look at the very fine copy here instead and compare and see, was this worth an additional $13.75? And that's before the discount. So at first glance, the book looks the same as the other, has the same spine issues. Again, I promise you saw me open it. This is a different book. This is the very fine version, but looks the same. Tough in the black, dark borders around here. A little bit of a paper crunching issue in here, right there. Honestly, looking at it again, I think the spine is in better shape. So I think it justifies the very fine, and thankfully no water damage or stain. The back even looks whiter than the fine copy. I think it needs, well, I was going to say it does need a little bit of cleaning, but I don't think so, actually. No, it does. I was wrong. Right in there. I'll try and move the light back and forth. Hard to really see it, but it's just a little brown, little tan right here, but it's just dirt. So definitely a CP for me. I think it can be pressed. So this one, I think as is, thinking back to the books, the Venom books, Amazing Spider-Man 374, I honestly feel like this is cleaner. It doesn't need that much of a clean. But I think this has more damage than I would like to see in a 9. So I think another 8.5. Yeah. And then I'm just wondering, like, again, even if I press it, it has those color breaks. Again, I'm just trying to think, is it worth my trouble to fix this book as best I can when you can clearly see that it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 significant color breaking spine ticks. And again, just working back from a 9.8, 9.6, 9.4, 9.2. It's probably a 9.2 with a press, and then the slight dirt. It could pass for a 9. It's really not all that dirty. So I think I'm being persuaded to bump it to a 9. There is a little bit of some folds right here where, again, this is where I'm like, I'm not sure if it's an 8.5 or a 9, so I go with 8.5. So I'm going to give that book an 8.5. Now, the question is, do I want to indicate that it could be pressed? I don't know. I probably could clean it and press it up to a 9.2, but is it worth my trouble? How much money am I adding to the book? $10, $15? I'm going to leave it 8.5. So I know I sort of gave up on the other book where I'm just like, I bought it as fine. I'm giving it a 6. I didn't want to sit there and really start to look and go, well, should it be 6.5? Should it be 5.5? I just didn't want to mess with it anymore, and I left it as a 6 because of the stain. This one's a strong copy, but I just don't think I would spend the time and the effort to press it, and that's what I'm doing differently. There has to be a really significant defect or something, or fewer spine-related issues, things that you can't get out. You want to find if there's any of those, and then if you feel like you can improve it and get those defects out, then leave yourself a note to improve it. All right, this will be the last one, I think. And this is Fantastic Four 129. Okay, so this is, I bought this in fine condition. So here we go, page tear, right there. And what I've learned is if there is a tear, you're talking about a 7.5 max. So again, I always like to dig these out and kind of return them back to normal. And then I make sure when I rebag and board it, it's not folded again. So it's a very subtle tear. It's almost becomes like a chip once you kind of put it back to normal. It would need to be pressed to kind of get back down and relax flat. But there is a little tear there, obviously another tear there. So now we're kind of working back from that 8 or 7.5. So that's unfortunate, but realistic because it was listed as fine. A little bit of a crunch there that's introducing a spine break and a color break. Few there. Dirty. The top is very sharp all the way through. And the color is great on this too. Great John Buscema art. Looks to be maybe an off-white to white. So not a bad book. Let's look at the back. Dirty again. So you see that, the dirt. And with Mile High, Chuck's buying these collections from people who, they may or may not have cared for the books. This one needs a super deep dry clean in order to improve it. There's some sort of additional dirt or snot right there. And you can see the page flap kind of coming up. So this one would need some work. And again, because of the tear, even though I could clean this and make it pristine and it looking like a 9.8, the fact that it has the tear means it's only going to get a 7.5. Now, the good news is it's so dirty that, it's the dirt would bring it down to that 6, 7, 8 range if it were a 9.8 without the tears. So it's like they're canceling each other out in a way. So I feel like this could be a 6.5, probably a 6. What do you think? I just don't think it's anything beneath a 6. I can't see why it would. There's no stain. There's no other real significant defect here. I'm tired of looking at that guy. There's no folds or creases. The cover is like completely flat. It's just that tear right there. And I don't feel like that's really going to drag it to a 5.5. So I feel like a 6 is pretty pretty much spot on there. So a 6, I would say. And again, I'm not going to indicate that this could be pressed or clean, because even if I could, I'd be spending a lot of time on that book to bring it up from the 6 to, I would say, a 7.5. And then I'd have to press it again. And I think that this would look better, honestly, if it were pressed. But yeah, I'm not going to mess with it. So there we go, loading it into that nice Silver Age bag and board. And again, the fold kind of, the tear almost disappears when, you remember it was pulled back and you could see the inner first page. But now having it this way actually makes the book way more presentable, and looks like, again, it almost looks like a chip right in there. So it looks better, but just knowing that it's there, and the tear and the fold has introduced a color break, I think a 6 is certainly a fair assignment for Fantastic Four 129. All right, let me see if I want to do one more or leave it at that. Yeah, the one I'm curious about, how about, we'll do one more real quick. This is the one I'm curious about because I bought 2 copies of this as near mint, and this is Star Wars 71. And this I think I got very fine. So if Bosk shows up in Boba Fett, I'm in good shape. If he doesn't, then I still have the first appearance of a well-known bounty hunter in the Star Wars universe, so I'm happy with that. And let's take a look and see if we can identify what's very fine. So right off the bat, the bottom, sharp, colors are great. Really there's nothing there. There is a little bit of impact corner crunching that's happening down here. Not as bad as the other one we looked at, but just slightly off. The spine is gorgeous. Look at that, just great. I mean, that looks like a 9/8 type of spine. That's exactly what you're shooting for. Fortunately, you got that corner. This looks like a book that I would get from Midtown, right? So it's like super shiny, glossy 9/8. Oops, but we dropped it on the corner. Sorry, Midtown. So the front cover looks amazing. It looks like it's 9/8 quality. I don't know if that's color rub in here or not. Right there by the R and the S as they come together. So I don't know if that's what they saw. Interesting. All right, let's look at the back. So the back, that impact corner, you can really see the crunching there. So again, what I would do is I would blast that with humidity. Just go to town, go nuts on that corner, and see what we could do to smooth it out. This one also needs to be cleaned. It's definitely dirty along the spine, especially up in the corner as well. So I think they were punishing the book over at Mile High because of the dirt in the corner. So again, trying to separate those two defects. If you have a 9/8 that has that nasty corner crunch, even a corner crunch, it looked like it was folded over. It was so bad. This is where I kind of take it down to an 8.5 right off the bat, and then the dirt is probably an 8. So this one I would say is accurate, but I'm going to mark it as a clean and press candidate because I feel like I could work on that book, and if that corner comes out, if it's able to, I mean, it's crunched and held together, and if that corner was able to relax and kind of flatten out, then the back is just some dry cleaning, and that's a 9/8. But it's a huge if, because that corner has probably been that way since, what year was it? 1983? Yeah. So 8.0 with the ability to improve it. All right, so there you go. So those were some of the books. I think, what did I learn from grading some of those? I feel like I would need another sample, unfortunately, but here's just some first impressions. I think that the books marked fine are fine. They're sixes. They're in that 5 to 7 range. They probably find something like a tear on this, and just say, "Oh, that's fine." That's the stain on this one. Did I do any others? No. But the very fine books were not that bad, and that was interesting. So in this case, so the 339, I gave a 9 that you could improve with a dry clean and press. X-Men 161, I gave an 8.5, very fine plus, and I didn't indicate that this could be improved, so I think it's just a max of 8.5. Again, I might be too conservative and it could be a 9, but I gave it an 8.5. This one, just dirty, needed to be cleaned up a little bit and then pressed afterwards. So I think that the very fine grade is probably something that I would want to look at if there's a particular key or book that I want to acquire that they only have in very fine, and the very fine price is marked down enough. I would gamble on that and seeing if I could send it off for pressing and cleaning or try it myself, and see if I could get some good value out of the very fine range. So the last thing to do, let's look at the order itself, the details, and see, even at the grades I assigned these books, was there real value here when you compare to the equivalent CGC graded in the condition that I gave, and then check the different grades in terms of how much I could improve it if there was a clean and press involved. So let's look at the numbers and see how I did. All right, so here's the order. This was placed the end of December 2021. It was a $231.80 order. And I went ahead and took a little break and finished off the grading of the book. So all of these values in column S under my grade, these are the actual grades that I've assigned to these books. So again, there's no like guesswork here. Those are the actual grades that I put down. Now, from a fair market value perspective, so looking at column U versus my total cost, it was I would say a valuable order, a profitable order as it turned out against just FMV. And that's regardless of the grade that I assigned. It's literally just book in hand versus your average sale online. And not too bad. So adding just a penny under $74 based on the books. And the big winner here was, again, Shadows of the Empire. FMV is high on this one at $34.05 currently. And Mile High continues to list this book for well under FMV. So I keep grabbing copies. Looks like the losers were Fantastic Four 129 and Captain America 310, as well as Uncanny X-Men 155. So let's look at the grades real quick. So the books that I didn't show, Captain America 310, I bought in fine condition. It graded under at 5.5. Fantastic Four 129, I took a chance on this one. It had a CGC value in a 6.0 of $99, and it came back, in my opinion, at that 6.0 mark. Marvel Presents #1, that's the Bloodstone issue that I bought listed in fine condition. It too graded out as a 6.0. And let's see, the Star Wars books I didn't show, Shadows of the Empire 9.4, and Tales of the Jedi, one got a 9.4 and one got a 9. Those 3 books I purchased near mint, so that didn't work out. Thor 339 I showed. The X-Men 161s. Now, X-Men 155 and 184 were interesting. X-Men 184, I definitely marked as a press candidate. Even as an 8, I think that one can be fixed and adjusted. But even an 8, it has a $45 CGC value. 155 is interesting too. It had a perfect spine, but was just really dirty on the back. Now, I ordered both of those listed on Mile High as very fine. So here's my sort of, I guess, theory or working theory, or just kind of the result of this order. And it's just making me think about what types of books and conditions that we're most likely to get from Mile High Comics. I believe that the books that are in fine condition are probably pretty much spot on at 6 or around 6.0. So, of the books that I ordered fine, Cap, FF 129, Marvel Presents, we see here 556 and 6. One of the X-Men 161s, the fine version, got a 6. So that's telling me that once it kind of gets down into the, or kind of down and dirty, where there's spine damage, blunted corners, dirty books, other weird gunk and junk on it, you really are looking at books in the 5 to 6 range. So when they list a book in fine condition, it's probably fine. And so what I do over here as well is that if they are in fine condition, or any condition, I should say, but has the press status, this is what I was talking about earlier, I go ahead and mark it down here. So the books that were in fine, I didn't even say that they were really worthy of pressing. It was really only those that were in the very fine condition that I indicate that it would be worth my time to check them out to see if I can improve it. Now, I'll take a look at column AB. If I were just to blindly slab all of these books, I would take a loss. So again, this is just not, it's not working out to just receive books from Mile High and send them in for grading as is in this case. And I kind of go back and forth with that. Sometimes it's appealing, it sounds good, but in the end, you can see it's just not, it's not working out from the slabbing perspective. Now, this was my first fine slash very fine order of comics, so maybe that's what's playing into this one. If I order 3 to 5 books in near mint, sometimes it does work out, but it's really inconsistent, and that's what I'm trying to figure out is where. I would think that over time, if they have a grader on site that is grading these books, I would think that their grades would be consistent, and they're not. I think that the grades, the near mint, the very fine, it's too wide of a range. So that's why near mint you can catch those 9/8 on occasion. But what was interesting to me was the books that were very fine. So if we go back and look at these grades, the books that I ordered very fine, 184 came back right at an 8, but is pressable. 155 came back as a 9, an entire grade higher, also could be pressed. Same goes for Thor 339. I think you see a pattern here. Star Wars 71 was very fine, could be pressed. 374 was very fine. It was just a half grade up. I think that I may be onto something, or I would be willing to try this again, but I'm not going to order any books below VF. I just feel like once you get, unless it's a key, if it's a key book and you want to take possession of that book, and even in a 6.0 condition, then I would say it looks to me that you're going to more or less get a book in a 6.0. But the very fine range is interesting because a lot of times you're going to get a book with, I would say, a perfect or near perfect spine corners, but they'll mark it down for maybe some cover creases or some dirt on the back, which can be easily cleaned up and corrected. So the VF books, I think, are worth a gamble if you're willing to assume some additional time and effort to hopefully increase the grade. As is, again, I would say that they're probably just slightly undergraded. So I think for me, as somebody who wants to kind of experiment with fixing up some books, I'm going to look at some of the very fine books listed at Mile High, in particular those that don't have a corresponding near mint book. Because that's the thing, once the near mint sells out, people just kind of pass and move on. But that very fine copy might be lingering that with nice quick press, maybe a little dry cleaning. Now it's a 9.4 and 9.6 and you have a bargain. So I may try this again, but I'm definitely going to eliminate purchasing books listed in fine condition because I don't think that's worth your time. But the very fine books might be worth a look. So there you go. Thanks for watching. Happy collecting and see you next time.